Hello and welcome. I'm Inger Marie Feldgren Christensen from the University of Southern Denmark. In this video, I'd like to introduce you to self and peer assessment using rubrics, which is one of the assessment methods you can choose to study in Module 6. I'll start out by explaining what self and peer assessment and rubrics are. Then I'll cover the learning outcomes that you can assess using this assessment method. And finally, I'll describe an example of peer assessment from the Faculty of Humanities at the University of Southern Denmark. Andre and Du describe self-assessment like this. Self-assessment is a process of formative assessment during which students reflect on and evaluate the quality of their work and their learning, judge the degree to which they reflect explicitly stated goals or criteria, identify strengths and weaknesses in their work, and revise accordingly. Peer assessment is defined in the following way by Falchikov. Peer assessment requires students to provide either feedback or grades or both to their peers on a product or a performance based on the criteria of excellence for that product or event which students may have been involved in determining. And finally, we have the definition of rubrics by the very experienced researchers Andrade and Warner. A rubric is a document that articulates the expectations for an assignment by listing the criteria or what counts and describing levels of quality from excellent to poor. Self and peer assessment using rubrics is a suitable method for assessing students' knowledge, skills, as well as competences. In addition, self and peer assessment and rubrics help students reflect on their own learning process and learning strategies, thus helping them to develop personally and to improve their study skills. Assessing your own work and the work of others is also a very important skill that increases students' employability. Now, why consider using self and peer assessment? Well, today we are moving away from the traditional and very teacher-led practice of lecturing. Instead, teachers are involving students and trying to support active and constructivist learning, both in and outside the classroom. However, assessment practices are not keeping up to pace and are still very teacher-led and traditional. This breaks off the alignment between teaching and learning activities and assessment. In order to restore alignment, one solution is to implement self and peer assessment using rubrics. Furthermore, feedback, which is at the heart of this assessment method, is an important ingredient in students' learning and progression. It is formative assessment that gives students the opportunity to improve. Let me round off by giving an example of peer feedback used at the Faculty of Humanities at the University of Southern Denmark at the MA study program in pedagogy. Students would hand in a written report at the end of the semester to complete the course. However, the teacher found that the reports were too superficial. Students started far too late to get the maximum learning outcome. Therefore, the teacher added peer feedback to the written report. The purpose was for students to be able to present reflections and choices made with respect to topic, theory, method, and empirical data, give and receive constructive feedback, act on feedback, and inspire and learn from each other. The peer assessment activity was designed like this. Students were put in groups of 6. Each group got a block on Blackboard. Each student submitted a draft framework for the report. The group members then peer assessed each other's drafts. The students went back to the blog to look at the feedback they had received and to act on this, improving their draft. This was their ticket to be allowed to get supervision from the teacher. After the supervision, the students completed and submitted their reports. The teacher found that the students' work was well reflected and that there was a deeper and a more professional engagement from students, both in the supervision and in the reports. I've added some references here if you would like to know more about self and peer assessment and rubrics. Some of the articles here are readings for E-tivity 6.4a. I hope you have enjoyed this introduction. Bye for now.